Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Good morning, sir. Hello.
Good morning. Sorry
Somehow
for throwing wrenches at you.
We jumped from 11 viewers waiting to 6 when I actually started. People are like, oh, what? Now I'm getting notified. Get out of here. Sorry we were a little late. We ran into a Zoom issue in where we don't have a paid Zoom account anymore. So one of us will have to start paying for Zoom, but then we were like, oh, we could just use Discord. But then it was going to take too long to figure it out. So surprise, about 40 minutes into this, Zoom is going to crash for us. Thank you, Microsoft. And we're going to have to start a new window, but I'll still be here and then we'll finish the show. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. It'll all work out.
Hilarious though, that we are in this predicament. Hi, welcome to well, we had a pre-recorded show last week,
yes,
but this week we're live, so that's very exciting. How are you, Mr. Lucian? What's going on?
I am pretty good. It was it's been a crazy busy summer, maybe one of my busiest so far. So it just seems like there's so much going on.
Yeah,
everywhere. So I don't know how yours is. I know yours is probably crazy too at this point.
It's good. It's about to get crazy. I realized I have tickets for PAX West, and that's in September. But with the home remodel, I'm wondering if I should stop traveling and save my money to pay off my loan.
For a bit,
but I really want to go to Seattle, so I'm kind of like, I don't know, but I don't know, we'll see. I also wanted to go to PAX Unplugged this year. That's in December, and I don't know if that will happen, but yeah. And thank you, Mo. We do know how to use Discord. We just didn't have enough time to set up all of the video overlays in OBS because we thought of it literally 15 minutes before we started the stream, so that's why. We did a test in Discord just before the stream started, and we're like, hey, it works. Well, we'll have to figure that out, and I mean, not figure it out, but like just add all of the layers and stuff to make it work. But it will work. Just takes time that we didn't think about.
And your job even now, are you remote right now? Or are you back at the office?
I am remote. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm remote too. So we are actually really familiar with video conferencing stuff and stuff. So we are pretty good at this. We were dumb and didn't think of it until.
Yeah, it's a shame because I should try maybe I can use my work account now that I think about it.
Yeah, and what happened is I had my work account, but it's been monkeyed with
because I've never wanted to pay for Zoom, and they used to you could have unlimited time with 2 people, but now they've changed that to 40 minutes.
Yeah, switched it.
But I understand it's a service they're providing. Like, why should they give it away for free? But yeah, I guess I'll try to log in with my other one, and maybe I can do that.
Well, and this is actually a good topic, even though it's not in our notes. The reason when me and Jordan kind of started this, we were looking at how to play a game online, and at that time, the big things you had available to you were like a Discord. You could do it.
Skype.
You had Yeah, and there was like maybe like a go-to meeting was a maybe one, or what was the other? It was like a
Google Hangouts was big. That's why Google Plus
Hangouts was another big one
because they could video talk with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a lot of downsides to all of them at that time when me and Jordan were making the show. And the one thing we noticed is that one of the most quality shows out there was using Zoom for their game. I think that's even before, like the only other one is like Black Magic or something, which is more of like the studio quality, Critical Role quality. But you have to be
no
like a production company for
the
that.
internet. Zoom is kind of the standard, and
Yeah,
and it was
but
like
then-
I think it still is, and they've gotten better where you can now like adjust the tiles of people. Like before, it was always
Yeah.
like if somebody crashed and then came back on, all the overlays were messed up. So I think Microsoft was like, okay, people are using this in a new type of way, which is good that they like paid attention. And the audio, like a lot of these streaming services have problems with audio and picking up your microphone. And I saw that Discord has that too, with like, you could either push to talk or you can have it voice activate, but what is the threshold for voice activation and how much does that change with ambient noise, with my child yelling upstairs, things like that. And so there was a lot of benefits to using Zoom, but I'm willing to try other things.
Yeah. And I always thought the picture quality was the best of all the ones that me and you had tried back in that day, because we really kind of bounced. We looked at them, and this was the best one that when you put it into a YouTube video or you did whatever, it had the highest quality. That even though all of the down scaling of stuff didn't make it look too terrible. So that's the long story. But the moral of that is, for you dungeon masters out there that are going to run games that are virtual, Zoom at the moment seems to be the highest video quality that we've seen around. But if you're not worried about that piece, audio quality and those things, obviously there's lots of other options these days, especially with, you could do it right out of Roll20. We could have done video and stuff inside Roll20 for playing the game. You could use Zoom for your games if that's what you're doing. There's so many options right now for virtual play out there.
Yeah, and a lot of people will just use Zoom and then a random virtual tabletop, and if you're into podcasting and stuff too, there's lots of, the technology has only gotten better, but let's talk about games. We are the Saturday morning RPG show where we talk about various role-playing games, usually of the tabletop variety.
Usually.
I think it's not in our notes, but I feel like I should be talking about it, is Baldur's Gate 3 is officially going to be released on August 3rd, which is a Thursday, the first Thursday of Gen Con. So I'm going to be at Gen Con. I won't be able to play. I never pre-ordered it. I never played any of the early stuff. So I'm very excited to just dive in and start playing. I think that'll be really, really fun. And with Diablo 4, I have a bunch of friends pressuring me to play Diablo 4 with them, but I'm like, no, I think I'm not going to buy that, and I'll just play Baldur's Gate 3 till I am tired, and then I will buy Diablo at some point. But Baldur's Gate 3's multiplayer too, right? We could totally do a stream of stuff. That would be a lot of fun. So
yeah, and I did order it on Steam, so I do have it on Steam. I did play some of the original stuff, but I did because I didn't want to spoil the story for me back in the day, so I kind of stopped playing all of their tests and stuff that they've done throughout the time. But they have added tons of the classes, lots of the subclasses. It's been making the rounds everywhere for everybody playing it or getting early access stuff. You see a lot of streamers are playing it these days, and it's as close as you're going to get to playing 5e in a computer game. 5e rules and things are happening with some adjustments to make the computer version of it work, and the graphics look good, voice acted.
It's 150 gigabytes
or something.
I was like, that's a
big
lot.
Game.
That's a lot of game, but we'll make it work. I was trying to think if World of Warcraft was that much, but it couldn't have been, because it's also a game that's 20 years old. So yeah. But anyway, that's coming out. That's going to be really exciting. I want to play it. I want to do some streams and stuff. I don't usually stream video games, but I think that is an appropriate one to stream and hang out at and stuff. So
what class and what race would you play?
That's a good question. I don't know about race. I haven't decided about that yet. I'll probably see which character speaks to me the most, but I was toss up between Warlock and Wizard, I guess, my W's. So I don't know. Usually I always want to play a Wizard, but I was like, man, I really like Warlocks. That could be fun too. So we'll see, but I don't know. Neverwinter Nights, I was a sorcerer. Neverwinter Nights was my favorite to be a sorcerer, because sorcerers had more flexibility with spell slots than wizards did, and I liked that. So Now I just need my DCC Dying Earth video game, and I'll be happy.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, there's still no monk, they say, and yes, up to 5 players. Yeah, I probably will be a dwarf, Moa Peach. I do like dwarf. Dwarf transmuter wizard is like my favorite archetype, I think. So
now, I don't know if they have all of the wizard schools, so you might.
I doubt they do.
Which ones?
Well,
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. But I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not anticipating a 1-to-1 transition of all of the subclasses in the book. I'm anticipating a video game experience in Baldur's Gate, which is really all I want. So, like, I'll be fine.
I think wizard would be cool because you get to see the spell effects and stuff, and it's pretty fun. And that opening, not spoiling anything for anybody, but the opening kind of mission and scene and the opening movie, it's captivating even today. When somebody, like, I've been watching streamers who have gone and played it, but they hadn't seen anything about it, and I just like watching their reaction to just the opening movie. Because the opening movie of Baldur's Gate, which we've all seen in the previews or back when they were releasing and talking about it, but if somebody
that's still
hasn't seen that,
the Illithid ship, right? And
it's
so good.
The Githyanki chasing the Illithid, it past Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, so and we were playing, not Rod of 7 Parts, Great Modron March, and I dropped the name of the Illithid or of the Githyanki queen who lives in the astral sea, and I was like, oh, my players won't know this, but all of them have played Baldur's Gate 3, and they were all like, oh, that person. I'm like, oh, cool, like, she's in there? Like, I'm really excited now. This will be fun. Yeah. So, yeah, she's part of the story, so.
I also wonder, from a lore content creator, how much additional lore, deep dive lore you might find in there as you're going through it.
Because it's like current events. Yeah, so it would be really interesting. I don't know if it's going to be like canon. What is canon nowadays with 5e? They're kind of treating it like a multiverse kind of fracture of the timeline. But I'm also curious about the story and how it same with when the movie came out. The D&D movie, I was like, Honor Among Thieves. I'm like, is this gonna, what kind of canon is this? And they utilized the Red Wizards in such a way that it could kind of fit and be part of everything. And so who knows, maybe, not that those characters, not like Edgin and whatever else will pop up. Sophina will pop up in Baldur's Gate 3. But like, I like the idea of it being a larger living world. It's kind of cool. So that's one of the appeals of the Forgotten Realms to me, I guess.
Yeah. And there's just so many realms that are forgotten that you want to learn about.
Yeah.
What was always the appeal to me.
What's underneath this? I don't know.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah. News of the day is it is Dungeon Crawl Classics Day, DCC Day. So if you have a local game store that's doing stuff, you should go check it out and say hi and see if people are running games. If you are lucky enough to live where I live, I will be running a game today at 2:00 at the ABU game store here in Idaho. And we're running, they gave us a MCC game, level 3, but it's supposed to be like newbie friendly. So we're actually decided to run 3 0-level funnels. So I'm running last year, 2 years ago, DCC adventure called DCC Day adventure called Beneath the Well of Brass, which is really cool and super fun. I've never ran it before, so I'm excited to actually run it. I got to print off some pre-gens before I leave. But yeah, it's exciting. And they got all kinds of
DCC
stuff.
Names their modules and their adventures really well too. They're always catchy.
They're fun. Like, they do a good job. Yeah.
And
People of the Pit. Like, what?
Yeah.
Frozen in Time. That's another good one. The one that watches from below. Like they always have those like pulp kind of comic-y novel titles. Like,
they grab you. There's like a hook in the title right away. It's just so good.
I've been listening to a fun podcast, an OSR podcast called Between Two Cairns, and I recommend that. And they were complaining about how many Tomb of or Tower of there are in modules, and they're like, I don't want to see another Tomb of the Serpent whatever or Tomb of the Underwater Ghost. Like, I don't No more of that. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, there are a lot of those because it was just like an easy way to be like, I don't know, there's a tower and there's like a tiefling in it. It's the tower of the disgruntled tiefling. And you're like, okay, cool. And I would say that, like there's DCC will fall into that because I think one of their adventures was like Tower of the Beakman. And so it happens. This was a little under our radar, or under my radar, I guess I wanted to bring it up because I saw some people talking about it. Gloomhaven, which is the RPG. Oh, I'm gesturing over there because I have the box. That took the board game world by storm. Like Gloomhaven was really popular, and I was like, this is going places kind of a thing. And after playing it for a little while, the world and the characters, it's very fleshed out and great. And I guess the writer designer, he wanted to make an RPG, but the board game is kind of what he came up with. Well, they recently did a backer kit, not a Kickstarter, but a backer kit for it. And I believe it's ended. I could be wrong, but it's for Gloomhaven, the role-playing game. And a lot of it is like, I think for $30 you can get just like the core rulebook, but there are spell class cards and magic effect cards and minis. They're big on minis and stuff. And it's hypothetically kind of compatible with the board game. You can kind of like play both at once to go on various missions and stuff. This was one of those where I'm like, if there could be I shouldn't say a D&D killer because there will never be a D&D killer, but like this looks like it could take the tabletop world by storm. Like if people are going to switch, I think this is the one that could kind of make them switch. It has a World of Warcraft kind of feel to it from, I don't know, in just the character design maybe, but I wanted to talk to you and see if you thought anything about it. And so.
Yeah, so Gloomhaven's always been that game, tabletop game that I wanted to play, just the game itself, because it's always so, like when I go into my game store, it's always they've got the 1 through 10 most selling games, and it's always up there. It always has a kick-ass, like box of stuff that's going on with it and expansions to it, and they put so much time and effort into it, and you always see that and think, oh, if I'm gonna play a board game, I want to play this thing. This is like the super board game, like almost like the Twilight kind of Imperial Twilight game,
like Twilight Imperium,
Twilight Imperium, get it wrong.
Those like 9-hour all day games kind of thing.
Yeah. So this was, I always thought it was cool. And back in the day, another way to get a lot of people to play Dungeons and Dragons, the first gateway to that would be a board game like a Hero Quest or something else, where you might play that first as a younger kid, learn how to play that, and then you start thinking, oh wait, there's role-playing games that have books you can read and you can play this other, a little bit more advanced almost in a way, but the board game gave you a chance to get into, wait, we're in a dungeon and we're getting cool gear and gold, and we can pick a class and that kind of stuff. Kind of starts people out. So I think this is, you're right, because there's a built-in audience already that are Gloomhaven fans. Now they can say, we love to also play tabletop because we love role-playing stuff, and now they've created a game for us that is this other favorite game that we have. So I think it's like a kind of like a match in heaven.
And Gloomhaven already operates, I know you haven't played it, but like it already operates like a it's kind of a DM-less like dungeon crawl game, where you use the app and the random encounters and the book and things like that to kind of position stuff. And then the monsters operate on a logic flow. So like, oh, they will go here because of the flow of logic that you've programmed into the game. But there still kind of has to be a person that runs it in a way. Like somebody has to understand the rules enough to run it. And I remember when playing it, it's one of those like, wow, I could make my own adventure. And so I think they're extrapolating on that. I don't know. I'm very, very curious. They've raised over $1 million. They have over 3,000 backers. So it's one of those, it's going to be big. I think it's going to be really big.
When this it reminds me too of like Dark Souls is popular. It gets the board game. That's pretty popular. Lots of people buy the board game. And then I saw Dark Souls the RPG on the shelf at the comic book store. So
Yeah.
it was like this natural progression that, sometimes some of these board games have such great detailed worlds and such great visuals and such great games already based around them that they're a natural fit to do a tabletop role-playing game based off that, to let people play that too.
Yeah, I wonder what other fandoms, because like I want to play in the Star Trek universe. We've talked about that, but like the since Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild were so popular, a lot of people have been like, when will Nintendo license out an official Zelda world video game or tabletop RPG? And like, think about it, like how many people would jump in there? When will Square Enix license a Final Fantasy tabletop RPG? Going, full circle. Like, these were inspired by the original 1970s RPGs, and now they're became video games, became their own franchise. The cool thing about this, though, is it is his own, like he created all of it. I don't know. I think we could get a little burnt out because we're already getting like The Walking Dead and all this other stuff. Like The Walking Dead put their name on everything, I feel. But The Walking Dead RPG and I don't know, we're gonna get random stuff like I'm trying to think of that show 24. Like, we're gonna get 24 the RPG or something where you have to play it in 24 hours. Like,
well, there's that Kickstarter I did where you could do Kong, Pacific Rim. They like had grabbed all these movie franchises that were popular, and then their tabletop role-playing gaming engine allows you to play in any of those. So, and then during the Kickstarter, you could pick like, a couple of the ones that you really like. So like Escape from New York was part of it. So it's like a modern day, and you're right. I think everything is ripe for everything's going to be in a tabletop role-playing game. We're also in that time now where I think we get the glut of, there's so many games and there's so much stuff out there that there's this time it happened, I think in the 80s also, where everybody and their uncle that was a game company wanted to build a tabletop role-playing game too. If you go back, you can find all kinds of, games that had popped up and would be on the shelf, and then you would never see them again, or they're not a company now. But there's a lot of these old tabletop role-playing games out there still too. So now we're in that same kind of, everybody wants to make one.
And I guess I love the idea of a system neutral campaign setting. Let me build the world, but do I really need another cyberpunk tabletop RPG? Unless it's kind of, now we should really judge systems by like, how complex do you want? Do you want like super complex, lots of player options kind of a thing? And then it's like, well, I want this. And you're like, okay, here are the genres for that. Like, here's Shadowrun, here's Pathfinder 2, here's Starfinder. Like, what game do you want? They're all crunchy. They're all really, really crunchy. But like, what type of style do you want? And then on the fantasy side, you have all this other stuff, because really when it comes down to it, like, you can just talk and then occasionally roll a d6 and be like, okay, yeah, you do that, and then go back to talking. But you're right. These game companies, or these licensee companies, they want to be able to say, here, take Transformers and make it into its own video game, when it's like,
I have it.
But I could play Mecha Goons and we could be Transformers. Like, why do I need that thing other than I wish that there was a world that I could incorporate? So, and it's hard. I was reading a blog where it's, no fault to players or people who buy games, but it's a lot to learn a new game, to learn a new system. Like, how many people have their wall of shame of board games that they've bought and have never really opened? Because learning a brand new board game can be time consuming. It's very rewarding once you start playing it. But then to consistently play it, kind of a thing. And I think RPGs are the same way. So I don't fault anyone who's like, if they look out and they see, wow, I could play this Lord of the Rings game, but this is Lord of the Rings 5e. I'm familiar with 5e. I'm going to gravitate towards that. I want to pick it up. I want to play something that I at least have my toe in the water, kind of a thing. Like, I understand it a little bit more.
And I feel like sometimes you can learn systems and they can stick with you, or you might be able to keep a couple of them in your head. But there does get to be a point where it's hard to learn a new tabletop role-playing game system too and keep it separate from the other thing. It was what I kind of ran into a little bit with learning Pathfinder 2, but 5e and Cypher system, like those two I can keep in my head, and they don't fight each other when I'm trying to when I want to play those or I want to help somebody learn them. But when I go to learn some of these other ones I bought, which are all great games and all have interesting mechanics, I struggled on other ones, right? I couldn't keep them in my head, or I couldn't remember all the rules, or like I'm struggling to figure out what that rule even means, kind of thing. Whereas, you know, the two I've been able to keep in my head have been Cypher System and 5e. For other people, it might be, you know, your game of choice. Maybe Pathfinder is the one, and then you have, you know, Star Wars or something is the one that you know, that's.
Or yeah, like my favorite system is 2d20 roll under, and now I'm really good at that, but I don't understand, this other stuff. Even Vampire the Masquerade and like White Wolf and stuff, there were people that were like, this is the game that I don't know. That was an interesting idea. It's like, it's a lot to ask not only a game master, but players to be like, okay, guys, let's reinvent the wheel. We all know how to role play, but like, this is a brand new system. And I like that. I like learning new systems. But at the same time, you don't see me playing like all of these weird fringe systems that I have. I'm still playing a, you know, hack of 3rd edition called Dungeon Crawl Classics. So it's kind of like,
and we tried Invisible Sun, which was always the example of, it was a struggle figuring that one out. It just wasn't like the first day we picked it up, we got it. It was like, you had to read something and you got some of it. And then you played, you got a little bit more, and then you got a little bit more, which
I will say though,
how I remember,
we all enjoyed it. But like I remember specifically Simon Indoor Adventure was like, man, I want to play this some more, and I was like, me too. But you're right, there was a learning curve there for sure.
Yeah, so. And I do remember that as a kid trying to learn Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was very much the same way. When I read the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules, I didn't actually understand how it all worked. And we flubbed through the pieces we didn't understand, and we stuck to the things we did. But as we played, or as I got to play with other people, I started to learn more and more of it. And then more and more of it started to make sense. And then by the time you get to 3, that terminology and the way it worked made sense to me. So I could pick it up. But somebody who's brand new to it would look at, you know, 3rd edition even and be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know, THAC0 or AC or what's this stuff? You know, how do I figure all these things out? So it's
there's a reason, you know, like Shadow Dark, Kelsey's RPG did so well, I think, because it was advertised as not 5e compatible, but like, if you know 5e, you'll understand Shadow Dark. And people were like, okay. And rather than reinventing the wheel, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think this Gloomhaven might reinvent the wheel correctly because it has that fan base and it's so big, and the design is really strong.
Will you buy it?
So what?
Will you buy the TTRPG because you own the board game? Are you would this be one that you would put on your shelf? Or are you?
I haven't backed it, but I would definitely pick it up, and I mean, for like the going price of an RPG, like $50. Yeah, I'd pick it up and see what it is. Like, if anything, it adds to the collection. I don't know. San Diego Comic-Con is happening. I think it's not getting a lot of coverage, probably because of the writers and actors strike. But it is happening, and I Googled like Hasbro San Diego Comic-Con to kind of see what was going on there, and everything's toy related. Like, we're releasing new X-Men toys, and we got this and this and this, which is cool. And then there were Wizards is there, like Chris Perkins is there, but like they're not doing a big push RPG wise. There were little, like, you could come see the Shattered Obelisk stuff that they have out. Like they talk about it, all the pre things that are coming out. I'm sure Bigby is down there, the new book that's coming out soon. I did see this though, that Eli Roth is directing a Borderlands movie based on the video game 2024. I have no idea that was happening, and I was like, I gotta tell Lucian because that's really cool.
Oh, I saw an August date. I was thinking it was this August. Is it next year? August?
It's next year, August 2024.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was getting excited. I'm like, oh, Borderlands is coming. I knew they were in the process of doing it because the Gearbox guys have been talking and putting it on Twitter quite a bit, and they're excited about it's going to be a movie. So I kind of knew, I just didn't know when the release date
so
was.
I guess that was the announcement, not that it was announced like, hey, we're making it. It's announced that like we have a date. It's going to be released next year. Yeah. So pending strikes, who knows? Maybe all the footage is already shot and they just have to like edit it at this point. But but I was like, man, you love Borderlands. If we get a claptrap in there, I'm good. I'm solid.
I love it. If you want to play the tabletop role-playing game, they have one called Bunkers and Badasses. So you can check that out, which is fun.
Yeah, sorry, people were talking about like the Star Wars D6 when it came out, and that's another system where like I think West End Games really wanted to be like, here is the most system neutral of games, tell whatever story you want. And that's why I started hacking that into modular D6, is because I liked the idea of being like, wow, if we just changed the name of like magic to hacking, then you could run a sci-fi game. And you know, it's kind of interesting. Whereas the 5e really lends itself more to superheroes and high fantasy, not necessarily other stuff. Whereas I think that West End Games D6 system really is like, it could be anything. Not unlike Cypher, where Cypher really could be anything. Like, I think that's very well designed to be just about anything. So,
they're dinosaurs with lasers.
Exactly.
Cypher, and it worked just fine.
The laser raptors. Bigby's Giants coverage. What is that? Book of Giants? Is that what it's called? I forgot. They're doing lots of coverage for that on the D&D YouTube channel. My favorite was I think the last one. I've forgotten his name. I met him at Gen Con, but I forgot his name. But he's one of the writer designer guys. And he was talking about the lore behind the Giants. And they had like this place beneath the earth called Om's Cradle. And instead of a sun, it has a portal to the plane of positive energy. So this whole underground area is just bathed in positive energy. So all of the plants and animals have grown really high. And it's this prehistoric, really cool place. And I was like, that's awesome. And so the fact that they have these like little encounter ideas and locations, I really, really enjoyed that. And then they were talking about some of the monsters and how they have like the death giants, and these are the giants that went here, and the like history on the Fomorians, and they're like the Feywild giants that got cursed, and that's why they are all mutated and they live in the Underdark or the Feydark. So it's curious. I'm really I should say I'm excited. I haven't pre-ordered this book because I just haven't. I don't need more monsters, and it kind of was going on about a monster book. But because of like people sharing stuff with me on D&D Beyond, I'm excited to check it out. And so I want to like go look at some of the things. So
Bigby presents Glory of the Giants.
The
other thing that got me a little interested too, because they talk about the rune magic of the Giants. That gets explained a little bit more, or has rules for it. More of the ecology of, if you have a world where giants exist, there's probably a whole ecology of giant related things, like, you know, what kind of pack animals do they use, or what kind of, you know, things are giant also that would be in that world that we would experience. I don't know, like giant, you know, flea, I think was one of the ones that like they
have a
giant tick or something. And I was like, okay, I mean,
an insect that's specifically designed to like eat giant blood, and so it's not That
made me more interested about the book than when I was just thinking, oh, it's a book about giants, because you might think, well, we had giants, we kind of understand giants, but they do need to be fleshed out a little bit more, because if they're the ultimate group that fought the dragons and the giants wars, and the dragons are always super cool with all kinds of abilities and things that make them cool, well, anything that's going to stand up and fight them has to be kind of that way. And I never felt like I got that same feel of crazy dragons could be so scary, or fear, or, you know, they could do so much stuff like with giants. But now they're going to be fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe there is that, oh, okay, they can be their own badasses. They can be, this is why they could stand up against the giants, whereas, you know, the human civilization couldn't. We'd be crushed.
I think you have the same mindset because of how we grew up, where we have fee fi fo fum giants that are kind of stupid and big, and like, I don't know, they just are up in a cloud somewhere. And then you have like Smog the dragon, clever, evil. Like, and of the two, you're just like, what's more dangerous? But in the world of Forgotten Realms and Dungeons and Dragons, like, giants are very smart and have magic and things like that. And so they're very formidable when it comes to fighting dragons. And there was a huge war. I still like the Eberron lore for giants, where they inhabited the world of Zendrick, and there was this huge giant empire. And I forget, I don't know if the details are there, but they got cursed. And there's a reason that Zendrick can't actually build into being a continent with cities and things like that, because anytime civilization gets a little bit too big, that curse kicks in and like a tsunami wipes it out or something like that. And so they're perpetually primordial because of something the giants did. And so that was always like, I don't know, like, what did the giants do? Like, holy cow.
Yeah. And I think this book would go really good with if you were planning or wanting to run Storm King's Thunder, which I still think is a great module for 5e. And it's a great module for Forgotten Realms. It takes you all kinds of different places. It's a great big epic story. Even on its own, it has all kinds of cool giant stuff that you learn about and you start to get into it more. And that's where I started to really expand on, oh, wait a minute. The giant culture is kind of cool. You know, and you dive into what's going on with the fire giants, what's going on with the stone giants. And wait a minute, then there's the storm giants and they're doing, you know, and now with this book, I think you could even enhance that even more if you're running that module or want to play parts of that module.
Or
it's
continue
a really
it.
good module
like,
to check
out.
Yeah,
after that module's done, I bet you could continue like, hey, we've got other giant problems and stuff. Like, be really cool. I do enjoy that module a lot as well. Like, probably because it had so many side quests and stuff, but it was overall just a cool take on, what is it, King Lear, where it's like, the king died and they're dividing up his kingdom or something. And it's kind of similar from what people were talking about it. I was like, oh, it is.
And I feel like it's one of the best. You want to take a tour of the Sword Coast, kind of in the lands just to the east of the Sword Coast. That's the module for you, because you can go all over the place and store, you know, and it's not just a Baldur's Gate and then all of a sudden you're in Avernus or something else. And it's not just like we're in this Phandalin when you're just kind of in a smaller area. Storm King's Thunder really spans. Now, if you want or jungles, Tomb of Annihilation is awesome. But if you want Sword Coast, you take a look at Storm King's Thunder for sure to run it.
And on that note, we have less than a minute in our Zoom meeting. So I think we're going to leave and then we'll start a new one and be right back.
Yeah. So I'm out.
But I'm still here. Just audio of Jordan. Just the crazy Jordan audio that's poking around while we create a new one. And then this won't happen next week. I do apologize.
He comes back, and it's almost like the show never ended.
It's almost like the show never ended.
Put a little commercial segment in there.
Yeah, we're back. Okay, cool. We've never looked better. Thank you, Jancy. Yes. So in other news, 5e news, we have Planescape 5e coming out, and we got a couple of bits of information. They put up a pre-order page on dnd.wizards.com, and you can go check it out. Physical and digital, because now that they own D&D Beyond, they're advertising that, is $80. I think it's like $94, and they discounted it down to $80. So who knows what the price will be for just the books.
So box set.
But it is a box set, and it's a box set that comes with posters, a DM screen, and 3 books. So the Spelljammer box set was it did come with a DM screen and 3 books. Each of the books was like 64 pages, so it was kind of like, I don't know. Especially, we always think back to Eberron. Like, Eberron was like 350 pages. Like, it was just this huge, tome, like, awesome book. And Eberron, I think they did a really good job with that setting. Spelljammer, they did not do a good job, so everyone was like, ah. But this one is 96-page setting, 96-page adventure, and 64 pages of monsters and like things that you'll find on the outer planes and the outlands and things like that. The posters for, which is a map of Sigil and a map of the Outlands, look really cool. There's some art floating around there. You can check my YouTube channel for pictures of it. And I really like those. I would love to get like super high prints of those and put them on a wall or something in a framed poster. The adventure is really curious because you go from levels 3 to 10, and then it says with a jump to 17. What does that mean? Like, do you finish the adventure and then it's like 5 years later we have an epilogue where you're level 17? Some people were saying this is like, wow, they're doing high level stuff, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're creating one encounter at 17th level. I don't know what this means. But another curious thing is, in the description, it specifically mentions time dragons, which is not something we've seen for a long time within the world of D&D. And I was researching time dragons, and I think the last time they were really mentioned was in a dragon article back in the 3.5 era, maybe 4th. Yeah, I think it was like 3rd edition. And I was reading up on that because I was really curious. And they're just these immensely powerful creatures that can breathe like a cone of aging at you. And so you die not from taking hit point damages, but just by accumulating 50 years as you get hit by this like breath weapon of time. That coinciding with like, I did a bunch of stuff on the Chronomancer, and we're getting into weird, what are they doing for the 50th anniversary? And the obelisks being tied into all of this makes me wonder if the time dragons have something to say with the direction of Forgotten Realms with this 2024 edition that's coming out. So,
yeah. And they do give us the names of those books. So it's like Sigil in the Outlands, and then Turn of Fortune's Wheel. That's the adventure you just spoke about. And then Mort's Planar Parade for basically like the monster book, I guess. So that
and Mort is a character from the Planescape video game that came out. So he's a talking floating skull. So
yeah, the map looks really cool. Just in the little couple of screenshots I've seen here, that and the covers and the alternate covers for this look fantastic. Also, the artwork on some of the alternate covers made me want to buy it just by looking at those.
And I'm curious how well Bigby's will do. I don't have the numbers, obviously. Well, not obviously, but like I don't have the numbers of how well Keys from the Golden Vault did, and I assume not well because that was released really shortly after the OGL debacle. And this one is like, I don't know if I'm going to get Bigby's kind of a thing, is what I'm hearing from a lot of people. But specifically with Planescape, like people love Planescape. And the burn from Spelljammer, I see a lot of comments where they're saying, I'm really excited. That art looks great. Like, I love all of this, but really just have to wait and see. Like, I don't think I want to pre-order it. And so I don't know. I wonder how well this will do. I guess we'll see how well it is. Because if it is put together very, very well, then I think it'll do very, very well. But if it's half-assed or spelljammered, as I like to call it, then it will not do well. And I don't know, it makes me sad because I want it to do well. I love Planescape. I would love for them to give a updated kind of version of it. But again, I'm running.
We haven't really had a lot.
Yeah, like I'm running Great Modron March, and it's kind of like, okay, because third edition didn't have Planescape. They kind of incorporated the planes, but they didn't have like that specific setting. So I don't know. And then Eberron is,
because it's just an interesting kind of world to be able to put your players in and be able to travel lots of different places and lots of really exotic and really fantastical places besides just, your typical run-of-the-mill fantasy stuff. So I always like that. It's like that next level of places you can go. And then if you want to spell jam, you can spell jam. If you want to, just use dimension portals or doors that are everywhere, you can do it that way. There's all kinds of different ways that you can interact with it. And I've still, to this day, I always like the twist that Monty Cook and those that were there at that time put on Planescape and made it a little bit more. It made it stand out from regular Dungeons and Dragons fantasy worlds. It made it stand out from Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms or those other places, even though it would connect in some way to that kind of stuff. But it's just a cool place.
Yeah, no, it's very Monty Cook, which he really loved it. He didn't come up with it, but like I think he, from what I've read in history and stuff or articles, he was like,
yeah,
this is exactly what I've always wanted, kind of a thing. And it's an amazing setting. It's a lot of fun. I think the Outlands are super interesting, not only from all of the different towns that are there, but like the closer you get to the Spire, magic works less and less. And I just love the idea of some insane magical artifact like leaning up against the tower at the center where magic doesn't work. And it's like, somebody's like, oh yeah, it's like whatever, that twig. And it's like, that is the wand of blah, blah, blah. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if we get this thing back over here, like we could have, and so I
want to do the ultimate mashup with that, which is I want to get the box set, but then I want to take Monty Cook's Plane Breaker.
Yeah.
And I want to mix them together like peanut butter and chocolate. I want to break those planes with Plane Breaker. I was just like, oh yes, there's so much good stuff.
I think Plane Breaker was his way of doing sigil. Like I think he wanted a sigil, and that's what he created. And Plane Breaker is great because it's not only the Plane Breaker, which is like the city, but it's also it kind of reminds me of, is it Thor 3 where he goes to that planet of like forgotten things?
Yeah.
I forget what is Endikar? Is that what it's called? Endikar? I can't remember. But yeah, it's
I don't remember the name.
Plane Breaker is kind of like that. Like you could walk the shores and there's random tables to find just like things that have fallen out of the multiverse and washed up here. And I think that's really, really interesting. And then on top of the Plane Breaker book, there are portals that lead, and he's got, on top of just the section on the city, there's a whole bunch of sections on the different planes of existence that Monty Cook came up with by himself. So
yeah,
highly recommend Planescape or Plane Breaker. Right, great book. If you want planar adventures, great book. So, I'm doing DCC Day today. That's my gaming fun. But I wanted to talk about a new board game that I got called Freelancers, and I'm going to probably do a video on this because it had such an impact. So we were going to play DCC on Sunday, and then a lot of things happened, and most of my players had to cancel. So 2 of them showed up. There were 3 of us, and I'm like, hey, I've got this board game. I think we should try and play this as opposed to me running a DCC game for just the 2 of you. And they said, okay. And the game was Freelancers. Now, Freelancers is not out. It's coming out at Gen Con. I got an advanced preview copy because of a friend of a friend of a friend. I kid you not. It's like three ways down. They sent me this preview copy. And we played it. And it is the most like, if your D&D game is canceled for whatever reason, or if you don't have enough players, pull this out and it feels like D&D with 0 prep, and you can have like a fun adventure. And so we had to go fight a dragon, and you roll up random characters. The goal is to accumulate money, and when you accumulate money, you unlock new features within your character. And then on top of that, you're acquiring titles. So as you're going through, you might be like I parlayed with a bunch of frog people to get across the Crocodile River, and it was like Jordan, the Frog Whisperer. So I got the title of this. And then the person at the end who like wins is the one who has the most titles. And it was really fun. So you're like building a hero as you play, and it's self-contained, and we finished it in 3 hours, and it was like, well, that was fun. It was done. And now these characters are done. And we would roll up new characters to start the next adventure in the thing.
So lots of replayability too.
Oh, so fun. And it could be like there's a big map, and there's all these different paths on the map, and we went this way, but if we ever replay scenario 1, like we could go the other way. And anyway, we had a blast. Like, it was so fun, and it was so lighthearted and silly. And there is an online app that's not released yet that walks you through like how to play and that really helped us. So we were able to hit the ground and just start playing. And so, and it's called Freelancers, a crossroad game. I'll put a link in the chat, but you guys should you should check it out. It's so cool. Like,
is it a Kickstarter or is it a company that's just going to put it out there and you can buy it at stores?
No, it's a company that's put it out there. It's made by Plaid Hat Games. And they've made other stuff, but the reason I know about it is it's written by Donald Schultz, and Donald Schultz is a game designer, but he also was running a D&D podcast called Bored with Life a long time ago. And he's a voiceover director, so he got a bunch of his voice actor friends and he built this board game. Cool. And they also are friends with like Plaid Hat Games. So Plaid Hat's like, okay, we'll produce your game. But yeah, it's like it was 90 minutes, 3 to 7 players. We played it with 3 players. It was super fun, very D&D-esque, but like no game prep, and we just had a blast. So I wanted to recommend it. And I think I will be doing a video on the main channel of like, what do you do when people cancel? And it's like, but I really wanted to play tonight. Here's a fun alternative that you literally just need only 3 people to play. And I think but if you have more than 3 people, it works well. So
cool. Yeah, you can pre-order it and pick it up at Gen Con.
There you go. But really, really cool. And then other than that, I'm running I'm running DCC Day today and reading about.
I was hoping you were going to say they were going to let you kind of run what you wanted. And you could do a Dying Earth.
Oh, I could have at DCC Day. Yeah, I could have ran anything. But
you got the book, and I'm sure you're reading
it. But we were talking about it, and I'm like, well, and I was reading the Dying Earth 0 level funnel, and I'm like, oh, I could do this one, but Beneath the Well of Brass is something that I've wanted to run for a while. And here's the cool thing about this is the events in DCC Beneath the Well of Brass directly tie into DCC 100, which is the 100th module they made, which is called like the Music of the Chaos something or other. So the events of this one directly tie into that, and that Kickstarter is arriving soonish. So then I'll be all prepped and know what's going to happen for my DCC 100 whenever I run that. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. How many people do you think were there signups so you kind of knew what you were getting into, or is this you're just going to show up and whoever shows up shows up?
Yeah, I'm going to show up and whoever shows up shows up. We don't know. I tried to say like, hey, could we do some signups and stuff? But again, the guy running it's all volunteer. And so it's kind of like, and even last minute, he's like, I don't think I can run it in the morning like I was planning on. So I'm going to show up and be like, I'm going to advertise your game and the game after. And I'm like, okay, sounds cool. So it's like people can come back at 2 and play with Jordan. And I'm like, awesome. So we're just going to run a game and then I'll hang out there and I don't know. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have to bring my Steam Deck and play Vampire Survivors while I wait for people to show up. Who knows?
Seems to be the popular game out there right now.
So who knows? Or I'll play Magic the Gathering or something. Who knows?
Well, I want to add one more friend to your list of friends telling you should play Diablo 4 because I've been playing that.
Okay.
I've been having a ton of fun playing
He really wants me to buy it, my friend Chris. I'm like, I know, Baldur's Gate 3 is right around the corner.
That's pretty good. So that's what we've been playing. So it's like so many games, and like Kickstarters have been arriving nonstop for the last couple of months. Like I've gotten at least 3 or 4 that I backed last year that have finally shown up, and so It's been like Christmas and summer of all these different ones. And I'm still I cracked open the Dragonbane and I started looking at that. It was pretty cool, and there's some good stuff in there. And yes, I still want to play the Darkwing Duck character in there.
Oh yeah,
I
signed
cool.
up. Yeah,
Mallard.
Speaking of Dragonbane, I signed up for the first level adventure of Dragonbane at Gen Con. And so like I do at Gen Con, I like to try and play games that I don't normally get to play or things I'm curious about. And that's why we played Mazes back in the day. And Mazes was like super interesting and different. And I was like, okay. And so I'm excited to try that out. That'll be a lot of fun. And Gen Con's coming up. I'm so excited. Ted Ted organized a True Dungeon again, so we have a late night True Dungeon with 10 people. I think I'm gonna be not a wizard. I was a wizard last time. I think a bard this time. So
some of those you could keep your own character for, or do you have to start over again each year? I feel like there's one that you could keep going.
Well, our characters all died, so I don't think we could keep the dead characters. But yeah, if you get to keep the tokens, so you could rebuild your same character, I assume. Because that's the whole point, is like when you finish the game, you get prize tokens and stuff. So even though we died, we got tokens, and I've got my bag of tokens, and now I'm totally addicted, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you got to like stat out your guy. It's so fun. True Dungeon is awesome, guys. You should 100% play True Dungeon.
Everybody should try it.
It's so good. It's so fun. But yeah, no games for you then, huh? You just kind of, because of the summer months and stuff?
Yeah, everybody's schedules were weird with who was going to be out at certain times. And we're at a point now where we kind of want everybody there because we're almost at the end of the module. We're fighting at the highest levels of stuff. And you kind of need the whole party to really be there. We don't want somebody just to die because they're not there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we've been jumping around. But it sounds like this week we'll get to play this Thursday. Finally, it's been, I think, 3 weeks that we've missed so far.
And does Danimal have a timeline? Like, are you guys like 2 sessions away from the end, or 1? Or
we've asked him because he's ran his other group through it and they finished and they're on to whatever they're doing next. He hasn't given us like what he thinks we're going to get through it, but I feel like, I don't know, we're in level 17.
Yeah.
I'm betting there's still quite a bit of levels because I think Dungeon of the Mad Mage has like a level 25 down.
It goes past 20, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But I think they get smaller as they go down. Yeah, so it's not like the inverted pyramid. Have you met Halaster yet? Have you ran into his clones or him or okay?
Yeah, we've met what we would assume is either one of his clones or one of his. He's messed with us in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage in certain levels. We're at where his school was. We've met some of his students. We've been through areas of his apprentices. We fought some people that are related to that. So definitely we're kind of deep into the Halaster lore. I don't know if we've met the real one or if it's just been some construct.
Yeah, who knows? Or an illusion or a simulacrum maybe.
But, yeah.
That's exciting. I don't know anybody that's completed these mega dungeons, so I think it's really cool that you're like, we did
finished. Full Tomb of Annihilation. We did full this one. We did Waterdeep Dragon Heist, then moved right into this one. And then, it's going to be the longest. It has to be the longest game I've played with the same character ever. I can't think of another campaign where we played more than this.
That's really cool.
It's been interesting. Yeah. Love it.
That's so cool. So next week, I don't know what news we'll have. I'm really curious. But I imagine more Bigby stuff is going to come out, and we'll be able to talk about that. And then whatever else is in the world. I know that the Shadow Dark RPG is shipping. I should get like a physical copy soon, but I think the PDFs are already out. I could be wrong. I'll have to check. But we'll talk about other cool stuff, and then Gen Con after that. So it'll be really exciting.
More cool stuff on the way, I'm sure.
Heck yeah. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching, listening, liking, sharing with a friend, telling people about it. Subscribing on the Substack or RSS feed so you can be notified of new stuff when it comes out. And with that, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Saturday Morning RPG Show. Take care.
Bye.